Apologize, it's taking a little bit longer than I expected to go live. If you would just bear with me.
No worries.
I believe we are live. I just want to go out to our page and verify that we are, because the sequence of events was a little odd. Bear with me for another minute. We are live. Yes, we are official.
All right. Bill, thank you for the setup. Appreciate that. So I would like to, now when I look at this though, Bill, I see you instead of myself, or doesn't that matter?
It doesn't matter. You're good, Eric.
Okay. All right. Want to welcome everybody to another Virtual Lyme Impact session sponsored by Pennsylvania Lyme. Because of the coronavirus, we have really shut down all of our monthly support group meetings. As most of you know, we have 18 volunteer support groups in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's only some of the outlying areas that may start up with monthly meetings. In fact, one next week will be doing it outside. So in the interim, since we're not able to get face-to-face, we wanted to really continue our mission of education and awareness and bring to you an experienced speaker on anything related with Lyme. A lot of times when I talk with people, certainly new people that contact us as it relates to being recently infected with Lyme, a lot of times they'll want to know, well, what's the main thing I need to be doing? Or what are the one or two things that I need to be doing? And I believe if you ask that of a lot of different Lyme practitioners or a lot of different Lyme patients, you might get a varied response. But this is my mantra. What I say is there's two main things that you really need to do. One, you need to reduce the bacterial load. You have to reduce the pathogenic infection that you have. And to know what you have, it requires testing. So most folks know, and if you don't, in the state of Pennsylvania, there are 11 co-infections that ticks carry that have been diagnosed in the state of Pennsylvania. So between Lyme and 10 other co-infections, ticks carry a lot of different disease. So if you're feeling ill, to get properly tested, is it bacterial? Is it viral? Is it a pathogen that might be a microbe? Could it be something that is mold? Could it be a mycoplasma? So testing, finding out what ails you, treating is half of the equation. The other half is boosting your immune system. And over the last 10 years, since I've had Lyme, I share with most people probably the best way that you can boost your immune system is through nutrition and also through some alternative means to take a look at detoxing, to take a look at reducing the load. So that's what this presentation tonight is all about. It's really looking at gut health as a contributing factor to why some people are ill. So what I'd like to do is slowly get into this. As I said, this is our session tonight, and we will be having them monthly, the second Tuesday of every month. We're really very pleased to have Ann Johnson with us tonight. I have been seeing Ann myself personally for about 2 years, and I am a personal testimonial that my health has improved because of it. I've learned probably more from her science-based approach to connecting the brain to the gut than perhaps a lot of the other resources that I have been educating myself with. Before we jump into that, I want to do a little bit of updates, a little bit of housekeeping. If you go to the palyme.org website, you're going to see Dare to be TICKAware is one of the drop-down boxes. Last year in 2019, we held over 100 sessions, education prevention sessions for the live public, for high-risk groups. Our facilitators are certified. This was written in some association with the Department of Health as looking at it, so the content is very vetted. And it has really worked very, very well over the last 3-4 years. We run these prevention education seminars all across the state. If you are a member of an organization, it's easy to sign up for one. Because of coronavirus, we now are bringing it as a virtual live webinar. So there's really 3 choices. If you represent a high-risk group, your company, your association, your athletic, your local neighborhood, perhaps your sports or what your children are involved in, there are 3 ways that PA Lyme can bring to you a tick prevention and education seminar. Probably the most popular right now is on the left-hand side, a live webinar. You can participate in a pre-recorded one or have one customized and personalized specially for you, your time frame, and with your group. So you would want to go to PA Lyme to take advantage of that. So what we're asking you, the viewing public, to do is please share this. I mean, in Pennsylvania, 25% of everyone that gets infected are children under the age of 14. It is really just a travesty. So if you are a member of, or you know of anyone that's a participant in a high-risk group or a leader of a high-risk group, we would ask that you contact them, direct them to palyme.org, where they can ask questions, they can get information, and we can sign them up. And that website again is palyme.org. There's also, there's a donate button on there. We are 100% volunteer. Nobody receives salaries. We really live and grow through the generous donations of the public. If you feel moved, we would certainly appreciate a donation of any size. And also we are on Facebook. So by way of introduction, I would like to introduce Ann Johnson. She's a registered nurse and a functional medicine certified practitioner, and she's been doing this for 40 years. She's in Southern Lancaster County. She's the CEO of her own organization, DNA of Hope, in Georgetown, Pennsylvania. The last 10 years, she has been specializing in functional medicine. She is the best-selling author of 2 books, The DNA of Hope, which is a wonderful read, and Operation Hope, which is a good workbook as well. Here's what I appreciate about Ann and what she brings to the table. She has worked with over 300 Lyme patients. And in doing the work that she does in her area of expertise, she started noticing that gut health was really just a ravaging problem. What she noticed after doing 300 studies of 300 Lyme patients, that she started to recognize that there were gut-related recurring patterns, things like intestinal permeability. I'm sure you've heard the expression leaky gut. Well, what exactly does that mean? Food sensitivities, very common with a chronic illness, and certainly Lyme or those tick-borne diseases. Foods you could eat in the past, you are now sensitive to, if not allergic to. Poor villi length. This is a technical term, but it's pretty fascinating because she has the ability to take a snapshot of your gut and then show your gut, the villi, down in the lower intestine as it grows and it starts getting better and getting healed. The longer the villi, the better your body can handle digestion and prevent small food particles from getting into your system. So knowing what's your benchmark, where do you stand, and how do you improve from there? She also has identified bacterial and microbiome overgrowth, which plays into it. So Anne specializes in gut health as it interfaces with the brain. She utilizes a lot of pretty scientific data to do this: genomics, cellular and metabolism markers, and very specific gut and brain response testing. So it's really not uncommon. I've heard Anne say this to me, but it's not uncommon for her to say, if you're a Lyme patient, maybe where to start is to take your Lyme goggles off and approach yourself as an organism from a different perspective. And that's the start of gut health. So it's really all about gut restoration, which then leads to higher brain performance. So with her experience and personal testimonial, I think we're really very, very privileged of having Anne with us today. So Anne, with that, thank you, and allow me to stop sharing and kick it over to you.
And good evening. It's with joy that I come to you this evening, and it's just going to take a minute to show the slides here. So my job tonight is rather large, but your job as a Lyme client has been huge. Some of you have been through Lyme for, maybe you're just starting, maybe you've been out there 6 years. I remember my first Lyme client had been getting IVs for 6 years, and I knew something was wrong with that process. This was before they discovered Bartonella, and later they found out she had Bartonella. So it's been a fascinating walk for me, but for you, tonight, I want you to feel the adventure, the inspiration, and the education that your gut is telling you that it wants some help and to take some good steps to do this. My topic tonight is Lyme and gut health, how Lyme Tick-Borne disease steals your gut. That's exactly what it does, wreaks havoc on your immune system, and how you can restore health. So let's get rocking. I look at things from a different angle. I'm an adventurer. I travel all over the world to get some really good adventures. And one thing that I found when jumping out of a plane at 18,000 feet is that the world looks like a cell. This is a cell, and tonight we're going to go deep into the cell. I'm going to try not to use very scientific terms, but to get better, you need to get into your cellular health and your DNA. And all of that revolves around gut health. So we're going to open this door to strong wellness. My book, The DNA of Hope, this is how I started, and this is how I'd like to start this time with you. Hope is bigger than the tallest mountain, yet small enough to live in me, able to calm the winds of sickness and still the raging sea. In transformative functional medicine, that is what we do. We restore hope, and I look at it as transforming the gut into healing. So we are going to take a new journey down to the center of a gut if you are ready. Right now, we're in between two mitochondria. We're going deep into the gut. We're not there yet. Now we're down into the DNA, and here we start, because hope is the master surgeon able to operate on the two worlds science has yet to conquer, the mind and the cell. The cell is so incredible, but the mind is linked to the cell. Hemingway said that the gut means grace under pressure. I've changed that a little bit to be grace under tension, because the gut, your whole digestive system does not work. No, I'm not on repetitive. It does not work when you're under stress. And how many of you are under stress with your Lyme disease or any of the co-infections? So we need to realize that the gut turns off under stress turns on when we're calm. So that's one key point. In my new think, what I like to do is what happens first. Eric kind of gave you a little heads up with that, but with the practitioner, Rita Rhodes, that I work with, we are in a continual disagreement. What happens first? She said the Lyme happens first, and I said, no, the unhealthy gut happens first. So I would like you to vote. I know we can't vote on here, but I'm just wondering how many people think that Lyme happened first or that the unhealthy gut happened first. Think about that as we go through this presentation. After working with over 300 Lyme clients and really studying their gut, I vote for the unhealthy gut happened first. A child born C-section, not good. You get the wrong immunity. You get the immunity from staph and strep on the mother's skin. A child having shingles 3 times before the age of 10. There is something wrong there, and this child has not even gotten Lyme yet. When the parents have to rock the baby or put it in a car to calm it, we're thinking colic, we're thinking gluten intolerance, some high allergies. Those are the things that happen that weaken the gut so that Lyme can just walk in. You'll find out there's many other reasons, and we'll be doing two case studies, very brief ones tonight. But in Transformative, what I want you to be is to be all you can be, to live more, do more, love more, heal more. That's what we want. And that is my passion. I ask every single client this question. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? Here's some of the answers I get. I don't know, I'm too sick. I would travel to China. I would travel to out of Lancaster County. I would start a business. I would go from a gold medal to a new record. I would walk again. I would throw my crutches away and I would walk again. And it's fascinating that the very client that said that, we were able to help him walk again within 2 weeks, which is pretty amazing. He had been to many hospitals and not one doctor, not one person asked him about his diet. We found the key in his diet. He stopped those things that were creating his terrible gut problems that led to him walking on crutches. He had no knee pain, no leg pain after 2 weeks, and he is now probably working in mission control. Fascinating what you can do when you start asking a person, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? What is your passion? That's why I wrote the book, The DNA of Hope. And within that book is the 8 lifestyle powers. Now, they're listed there. I won't say them out for you, but we're going to hit pretty hard on resilience tonight and food and sleep. Breath will cover just about everything we do, because in breath, you need your breath to control your heart rate, your breathing, your brain waves, etc. And every time you take a deep breath, one thing happens. If you'll just take now a real deep breath, I mean, real deep, and then hold it and then let it out. The one thing that happened that you probably don't know is that you fed your mitochondria, because 80% of every breath goes to them. They're fascinating. They make your energy. 5,000 in every single heart cell. You have just given them more breath to work on and make your energy. So keep on breathing and keep on deep breathing. Sometimes a client doesn't really get it when I say, what would happen? What would you do if you would not fail? And they say, well, I don't know what you mean. I say, it's an aim, it's a goal. How do you want to change the world? So think of that. This is actually your homework. I like to give homework because what you're hearing tonight is transformative. When you get your passion, when you get your purpose, you line up your brain waves with your heart rate, with your breathing, and all of those go into cohesion, and you are focused. Sometimes I get so focused I could burn a hole in a piece of paper. Can you do that? Can you get that focused? That's what I want. And I would like your focus tonight, because we're going to start on the gut now. We're going to talk about the who, the where, the what, the why, and a map. I love to heal the gut, because when you heal the gut, you heal the body. I was reading tonight before I started here, and something that I read said that the bacteria within us, as it relates to the gut-brain axis, so your gut and your brain talk, that's called an axis, determines who you are. It determines exactly who you are. And that was in a scientific journal. So the gut and the bacteria within has come a long way. We're going to see three different people. We're going to see the blue person on the left who looks healthy. We'll see the green person a little bit weighty, and then we'll see the pink person who is actually more weighty. Now, the who. We're going to start not at the mouth, because that's really, really boring. We're going to start at your shopping list in your cart. So when you go to the store, and I know some of you haven't been there for a while, but you see these people that put the Pepsi over the side, you know, they're a professional shopper. They got the Pepsis down here, and they got this over here, and they got everything has a place in the cart. And you look at it and you say, where is the real food? So my question for you, when you're making your shopping list, is there real food on it? Real food that comes from plants, from animals, that is not processed. If I came to your house tonight and I opened up your refrigerator, what would I see? It's fascinating to see what different people have in their refrigerator, because a lot of it is not good. And how do you cook? Do you cook on a stove? Do you cook in a smaller stove? Do you cook in a microwave? I call it the microwave devil. And you'll read that in my book. I don't want to share that with you, because the microwave story is pretty amazing. But how you cook can kill your food or make it living. Broccoli, for instance, according to research, is to be cooked 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes steamed. If you cook it more, you lose the glutathione in it, and you don't want to do that. 3.5 minutes steamed, it's just a little bit hard yet, but that is when it is the best for you. What's on your plate? If we would take a look at your plate, again, not just fascinating, but educational, when you go through the store and you see what they feed children and the frozen food, macaroni and cheese, et cetera, and then you see the advertisement with the new hamburger out, which is 1.5 minutes from freezer to mouth. That is scary. Think of the pesticides, the processed food, the microwave in that food. If we have to eat like that, that is not fair. We do not eat like that. These things are still under your control. Your shopping list, your refrigerator, your plate, all of those are under your control. Do you eat relaxed or stressed? Remember, the gut does not work when you are stressed. And a question I love to ask my clients is, do you chew or do you swallow like a snake, or my Labrador? And often I'll get this little smile from people, and they are chewing like my Labrador, and it's a gulp. Now we're going into the who of the gut that is automatic. Once you swallow, everything in digestion is automatic. So that 1 minute hamburger is now automatically going to be processed into a huge amount of toxins and other things. You have a microbiome. That's a big word. What it is, it's a bacteria all over the body. It starts in the mouth. Tonight, you're going to be seeing a picture of the microbiome in the mouth. Do you salivate? Do you salivate when you're cooking? That's your amylase, that's your digestive enzymes getting up. You need to salivate. If you have a dry mouth, you need to find somebody who can help you to start salivating again, because it leads to more cavities and it leads to esophageal problems, and it goes on and on. It means a lot of things when the mouth is not moist. Do you swallow? Do you swallow under tension, under pressure? Do you swallow your food whole? Is it chewed food? We come down to the stomach. It is the only organ in the body that has a huge amount of hydrochloric acid, and that hydrochloric acid is very strong. You could put your hand in it and it could digest it. This is not good. So what you want to do is keep that stomach acid in the stomach. However, some people have acid reflux, which is the stomach acid coming up through the esophagus. And what we find in that is often their sphincter has a need for magnesium to close. Magnesium will help that sphincter close better. Or they have too little acid. In functional medicine, we believe that the stomach doesn't have too much acid, it has too little acid. So we do things to help it. But that hydrochloric acid is the only place that belongs is in the stomach. Over time, if you get a lot of acid reflux, what happens is the esophagus, being a very smart organ, starts figuring out, maybe I'm not an esophagus, maybe I'm a stomach, and maybe I need to act more like a stomach. And it starts changing its cellular makeup, and that leads to Barrett's esophagus. So fascinating. Get your hydrochloric acid in the stomach only. The gallbladder. The gallbladder is a very, very poorly advertised organ. It is should be one of the most famous organs in the body because it protects you from overgrowth of bacteria. People know that it helps your fat digestion. It's like a soap. So yes, that's one thing that it does. But those people that have SIBO often have poor gallbladder functioning. So we need to get the gallbladder functioning well. And I would say probably at least 50% of my clients do not have a good functioning gallbladder. Autonomic, again, with the pancreas. The pancreas is an organ that as soon as the food gets released from the stomach to the small intestine, the pancreas is shooting in bicarb to straighten out that hydrochloric acid and bring it up to a little bit better, a little more alkaline situation. There are enzymes in your pancreas, there's insulin, etc. We need a good, healthy pancreas. Food in the small intestine, this is where food is starting to be absorbed. You start seeing the beginning of the microbiome in the stomach. Very little microbiome or bacteria is in the stomach because it's such a high acid. When we get to the small intestine, we're starting to see different ones grow. And each organ in the body that is wet has its own microbiome. So we'll find different groups in different places, but they move around. In a few slides, we're going to talk about the villi and microvilli. I usually use my fingers for these, and the villi want them nice and long, but we now have microvilli that are smaller ones around there, and a brush border around that creates the mucous membrane. So think about it. Those people that are not digesting very well probably have a very dry mucous membrane. If you have a dry mucous membrane, there are genes for that, and they make mucin. Mucin travels about it's very, very slow, but it travels from the top of the villi over the top and back, and it protects you from pathogens entering them. When we see intestinal permeability, we have a problem with our mucin, and we could have a problem with our mucin genes. They could be low functioning. When we move from the small intestine down to the lower part of the small intestine and then into the colon, this is where small intestinal bowel problems happen, overgrowth. And what we'll often see is that the small intestine and the colon have this problem because the sphincter is not closing correctly, and the colon bacteria, which is huge, goes up the small intestine. SIBO is a lot of bloating, a lot of gas, a lot of ammonia, and it's something that we can work with to change, but it tells us that Generally, the short chain fatty acids in the gut are not working. And if they are not working, we end up with Tregs. Tregs are a special kind of cell that is very calming to inflammation. And what we'd like to see is more Tregs. We'd like to see more vegetables being broken down with chewing, with the correct enzymes, getting to the right area so that you can get your Tregs that are the brake for inflammation. They are one of the things that will help in SIBO. And then we get down to the poop. So the poop is a really fascinating story because there's so many different kinds. And when I was in college, I read a book that what is more important is what comes out of you than what goes in you. And you think about the food you put on the plate and what comes out, and you think about the marvelous, the incredible, the scientific, the nano organs, the micro nano organs, and everything cellular that's happening within you. And people say they won't even look at their poop. Wow, it's fascinating. There's a lot in it. I'm going to go back up to the tongue for a minute because, and I would like you, if you have a mirror or use your cell phone, take a look at your tongue. Most people don't look at their tongue, and it tells us a huge story. The one on the left has a great big line down the center. I see this with huge emotions. I also see it with some autoimmunity. Obviously, we've got a high line of yeast there. And then on the right side, that tongue, we see again the huge river down the center. We also see some rivers out to the side. This person has been ill for quite a long time. Many things on the tongue, let's not go into it tonight, but I want you to take a look at your tongue because many people haven't even looked at their tongue. So please do that. The nails tell a story, and that story is about a 3-month history of you. And what that history is it's actually showing us how your digestion is. On the left one, you'll see those long lines. That's a hydrochloric acid problem. This person is not absorbing protein. This is a person who also eats a lot of nuts. So selenium is a problem, and you see the white lines there. This is not selenium low. This is actually getting to selenium toxicity. Low selenium would be just a white spot here or there. On the right side, you see the more lines for hydrochloric acid and low protein absorption. We saw the tongues on one side. Now we're going to take one of those cells, and in this research, the ecology of the human tongue is fascinating. These are the different groups they're seeing on one cell. So you see the blues and the yellows and the pinks, and these all have different groups that do different things for you. Our bacteria within us digests, absorbs, makes vitamins and minerals, fights for us, and you're looking at it. It's pretty amazing. So you may think you know the gut. You had a little teeny tiny introduction, but I would say, we don't really know the gut. But today I want to get you even more information because when you've got a gut immune reaction, you have illness, and I want you to know what we can do. I think in a 9-box way, so don't let all this stuff bother you. Just look at the bullet points or the bold under protect and repair. When a person, and this is a high-performing gut, is motivated, it changes you. It changes you down to your cellular level, to your mitochondrial level. When the gut works, the gallbladder works too. They're a pair, and we need our gallbladder. So those people that don't have a gallbladder, there are things we can do, but many people almost immediately after surgery start getting some type of SIBO, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow. We see in a healthy gut that the stomach acid works, proteins are absorbed, and people sleep. You sleep great when your stomach works. Why would that be? That's because you're absorbing food that can feed the brain, that can feed your DNA, that can feed other things in your body so that you can sleep great. If If you're waking up continuously at night, you want to start thinking of you've got an immune challenge, a detox challenge. Something's wrong with your sleep and your body is knocking at you, trying to tell you what's happening. Over here on the right, we see someone who avoids corn syrup. That's great. And their immunity is 99.999% tolerant. That is what your immunity does. Your gut is the source of your immunity. 2/3 of your immunity is in the gut. And with that, it is supposed to be tolerant. For so many people that I see, it's that 0.000001 that is a challenge. And we need to start restoring it, or it will take over the body and you will not have a good immune situation and you will have too much inflammation. Glycophosphates down on the bottom. A healthy person tries to avoid that as much as possible, especially in gluten and especially on their grounds. Now, unhealthy gut. I'll spend a little bit of time here because this is what's happening in a poor gut. On the left, we see behavior. That would be the symptoms. Next, we see the function, which would be the cellular metabolism. And then we see the structure. There are actually a lot of genes that determine how the gut functions. So in the case of Mary, Mary was a 30-year-old who was a very stressed person. She was top in her very large organization. She was a top salesperson, but she had a very irritable gut, like IBS. She had poor protein absorption. She had long nails, actually couldn't see them. We had to ask her to take her nail polish off the next time she came so that we could see them. A lot of poor sleep, and she was waking up frequently during the night and she was exhausted. She grazed throughout the day. Grazing is not a good thing to do. So grazing can lead to small intestinal bowel overgrowth. There is a link in your gut that it needs rest about 3 hours between meals so that a motor complex can clean the gut and you can start over. But if you're grazing all day, you don't get that. So key point, grazing is not healthy. This person had a gene called the MTHFR-A, and she was the 1298. Means nothing, but think about the A being high ammonia, attitude, allergies, asthma. This person had a lot of ammonia just naturally from this gene, and she had very few emotions because the ammonia took so much of all her biochemicals in her body to clear it. So we put her on a low to moderate protein diet for a few days. And guess what? Her anxiety got better. She was less anxious, and her high stress, we're still working on that. But we started her on a number of supplements, and it took about 6 months. She was gluten intolerant, and there's some other genes that she had, but mostly we worked with the gut with her, and she started being able to eat more and feel better. We have the second case of Ben over on the right. Ben was quite overweight, and he's like 4 or 5 belt sizes larger. He had problems thinking. His diet was high corn syrup, a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar, a lot of processed food, the stuff you really don't want to see on someone's diet. He was getting a lot of arthritis in his joints. And what happens when you get your microbiome, which is the sum total of bacteria within you, and it is not functioning, bad bacteria can come in and it will sneak through the mucin coating, the holes in the mucin coating from intestinal permeability. And these are gram-negative bacteria. They contain a toxin called LPS, which gets into the bloodstream after it goes through the gut into the bloodstream, and it kind of locks down in your joints. And it's irritating, and it is one of the causes, the known causes of osteoarthritis. This can be reversed. This person also had 1-to-10 ratio in the celiac genes, though there are approximately 300 genes that can tell us about celiac, so it's not just a few. This person also had a very low ability for managing yeast, sugar, and alcohol. So vodka and wine was not good on this person's diet, and it was high. So we had a lot of work to do, still working on him. This is just a brain break for you. This is a thought leader question. Their microbiome is about 7 years old, and the microbiome is so important that the brain axis between the gut and the brain functions with a good, healthy microbiome, which makes neurotransmitters and decreases inflammation. And new research out is telling us, it's 2020 research, that the field of psychology may be changing because the microbiome within us and inflammation can create some cytokines, that's a product of a white blood cell, can create neuroinflammation in our brain, leading to schizophrenia, bipolar, or major depressive disorders. I find that fascinating because was it not years ago we were told that Lyme is a lot in our psychiatric units? Well, now we've got not only that armor, but we've got inflammation from food and allergies and asthma, et cetera, leading to many other challenges. Now, generally there are genes for this that are low functioning, but to be able to reverse this, that is next. That is where we want to go. Eric was talking about the gut and the villi length. I have a picture from my 40-year-old histology textbook, and these are the villi. And I did not know that it would point out that these are tight. These babies are tight and strong, and they need to stay tight and strong so that you can be healthy. This is not tight and strong. This is food coming right down here. It is not good. This base should not be here. Let's do length first. You want this length to be about 500. You do not want this length to be about 400. I am working with some people that are around 100 or 200. So celiac, a celiac person would be like almost all of these villi are gone. And at the age of 30, they're getting broken bones, et cetera, all the diseases of aging. We can get a whole new gut, and actually we get a whole new gut in 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Not everybody, and not all at one time. You have to have the nutrition in order to grow it. But this is a fast moving organ. Put your hand on your belly, you're going to feel your small intestine moving. It moves and moves and moves. This is a nice long villi. This is a short villi. This is an open villi. What happens here is food comes in here, and there are microvilli up here on a brush border. This is where your probiotics are kept. There is a mucin coating here, and there's genes for that. So we can get those from 23andMe. It's called the MUC2. And that gene, if you are low functioning in both, you're going to be pretty dry up here. You're going to have a lot of constipation. That's not good. Constipation leads to a lot of bad things. So what we want is nice, beans help here. Beans have a lot of mucin coating in them, or the products that will help. So will flax and chia. So we want the food absorbed up here and not down here. This is where protein comes, and you end up with no amino acids getting absorbed because the protein causes a problem, and it reacts to where 2/3 of your immunity is here. And your cells send out a signal saying that molecule, we don't know what it is if it's a full protein. Full protein is like a ball of yarn, and an amino acid would be that string. There are 40 amino acids. Amino acids get broken down here from the protein. Protein does not get broken down here. Your body reacts, and you get an emergency situation. We had somebody, we started using some new fiber called Miracle Fiber. I actually love it, but one person had a very strong reaction to it. I suspect this person probably has a leaky gut. These are open here, And the fiber went right down here and probably has maybe some genetic challenges with a certain type of fiber, because this food she probably has never had before. And whew, she came out with sweating, heart rate, blood pressure problems. It was not pretty. That's what happens. And that's how fast your immunity can work in a nanosecond. It's cool. Not for her, but for many people, when it works, it's beautiful. Pathogens will sneak through this coating, and that's what I want you to know. Now, there's some new information out about our enzymes. We are relatively poor in our ability to make enzymes. We only can make 20. But this is where the sum total of bacteria within us is so cool. It makes over 10,000. So now that carbohydrate food, those beans and the broccoli, and the healthy carbs for us that we need for the gut, because that's where they get their energy, they can break them down. If you do not have a good, healthy microbiome, you cannot really break down some of the proteins and a lot of the carbs. So we want a healthy gut, and start thinking that if your microbiome is affected by antibiotics or many other things, let's restore it, because your microbiome makes how many? 10,000 enzymes. A little brain break. We're going to show a white blood cell, and I will talk through it. This is a piece of yeast. This is a white blood cell. Don't worry if you see it's in gray. It is going to change in the next view into color. It is eating this piece of yeast. It is signaling out here through tunnels, and it's saying, help me, I must kill this yeast. Please help me. There's one coming up here. They're coming to help this wonderful white blood cell. This is bleach right here. This is bleach that will kill that yeast. Now it is in color. Here we see these are interleukins and cytokines, and then we see the poisons that it's going to inject in it. This is your body in living color. This is happening in a nanosecond, and this white blood cell will live one day. One day, 24 hours. In fact, it will die after this if you do not have antioxidants in your body, because this needs a lot of antioxidants to repair it. But look at the communication. I mean, we talk, but did you know your cells? This is a white blood cell talking. That is so beautiful. Another white blood cell called a macrophage. They eat things like your red blood cells. 80% of your cells are red blood cells, and they have to go somewhere, because every 3 to 4 months you get a whole new set from your bone marrow. So these are 2 red blood cells being eaten and recycled. You have the most efficient recycle machine right inside of you. These things, see these things here? These will stretch out and they'll come up and grab one of us. They're so long. It's just amazing. They talk, they feel, they do a lot of things in there. This is just a little picture to show you how fearfully and wonderfully we are made inside. This is a very simple picture of the cell's healing toolbox within. If you would look on the internet, this would go for about 90,000 plus pages, and there is always new things happening. So here's your carbohydrate metabolism. Here's your amino acids. It goes on and on and on. There is so much here, but there is so much more. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. So I fired my cook, and I have 44 reasons for doing that, because initially my cells were looking like this. Now my cells are looking more like this. Well, what's in a cell? This is a mitochondria. This is a healthy mitochondria. Notice the strong wall. This makes your ATP, which is your energy currency. There are 5,000 of these in every single heart cell. This one's so weak it bends on itself. And we now know that certain types of breast cancer and prostate cancer start in your mitochondria. This is it's not being fed very well. You're not breathing very well if your mitochondria look like this. Here's the nucleus. It's shriveled, and when the DNA comes out in its form as it processes here, it comes out through nuclear pores, and it's all shriveled. It comes into the different processes, and it is made into storage factories later, and these storage factories are so weak they can't even spell. I know some of you were proofreading me already, okay? So on this side though, everything is beautiful. And this is what we want. We want vibrant food to make vibrant cells. Which side do you want? The cell provides this magical blank palette, allowing us to paint excitement, adventure, and our very best performance. If I want to jump 18,000 feet from an airplane, I need healthy cells because that's a lot of emotion. My video is up on my website, by the way, and 18,000 feet is beautiful. It's the highest you can go in the United States. So, but it's a choice to be healthy. I want all of you to reach out, not for this, but for this. And it starts with good food. If you haven't read The Body Code by Bill Bryson, it's an amazing book. And what he talks about, this is not his picture. Well, obviously it's not his picture. This is a microbiome, but the microbiome was in a science magazine. And what he says the microbiome is that it weighs about 3 pounds. It's about the same as a brain. It does eat 10% of your calories. So if you don't have a microbiome, you are going to get overweight. Hello. It makes those 10,000 enzymes. Many of the bacteria within us live for only 20 minutes. Perhaps we should have a few minutes just to thank them for what they've done for us. Some butterflies live a day, but spore bacteria live about 26 days. So they get deeper into the gut and they create bigger colonies. Bacteria are ferocious housekeepers. They are so nimble in their genes that they can actually transfer genes between each other. And it's an incredible factory, but you couldn't even call it a factory. It's like a beautiful garden that we want to preserve. Detox is necessary for our microbiome. They create a lot of ammonia in us, and we want foods that are toxin-free. And that is really, really hard, I know, especially if you do not have the support. So let me just spend 30 seconds on support. It is one of the primary things that we do here. If you do not have support, we want to help you in any way so that you feel the support, because you can't change your food if your spouse or someone in your family says, I won't eat that way. That is really hard. That puts a stop on you. And every time you get the broccoli out to cook it and the other person says, I won't eat that, then you're cooking for 2 people. This is not something we want. So we want to be educating and inspiring people and motivating them to be healthy as a team. We study the microbiome in depth here, and this is one picture of a microbiome. This would be the parents, this would be the children, and this was an obese person who used the microwave devil a lot, had very poor sleep, terrible diet, chronic fatigue, and a lot of pain. Research came out about 10 years ago that I cannot find that said the microwave devil, they didn't use the word devil, actually created in like certain countries chronic fatigue and pain. So they did the research. The research is unavailable on the internet. I have checked so many times and had other researchers check also. But isn't that fascinating? Please get rid of your microwave, please. So this person has a lot of vermiculitis and was not sleeping. We had to restore her microbiome before we could get her to sleep. Chronic fatigue comes from the bad gut. A lot of work to do with the gut, but it's doable. This is a second person. This person had severe constipation, did not go for 3 to 5 days, very overweight, had no diversity. I mean, look at these parents, is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one's 98%. When I saw that, we knew that we have to diversify the gut and change the gut, because everything in the gut depends on your microbiome, even your personality. Fascinating. So even here, there's very, very few things, very few microbiomes here. I use Opus 23. It's a program that you have to be certified to use, but it breaks open 23andMe to find a lot of things, including things like your vitamin D gene. I'm hoping that many of you are on vitamin D and are healthy with it. We like a range between 60 and 80. 11 is way too little. Your body does not work without vitamin D. It is not a vitamin, it is a hormone. And no, you cannot get all you need from the sun unless you're out there with nothing on, and that's not party. So what we want is a high vitamin D, taking your supplements, eating your organic fish, because it's necessary for gallbladder functioning, and as I say, for about 600,000 other things. People are very sick if they do not have vitamin D. These are some of the vitamin D genes here, and this is going into one of the gallbladder salts. So Kelly, it goes to the gallbladder. Let's just leave it at that. And we can actually test bile salts here. And what we want vitamin D to feed the gallbladder to is to prevent bacterial overgrowth and promote good fat metabolism. I'm going to show some slides that are very, very graphic with ticks. So if you don't want to see them, shut your eyes, but here we go. This is from a Hungarian video that I have permission to use. And I chose not to show the video tonight, but here is a tick on the skin. Ticks are blind and deaf. Hello, this is not good. You know, how can they find us if they are blind and deaf? Well, of course, by smell, but why are they finding us? Just kind of read this thing over here. Are you wearing your clothes and your socks over your shoes? Most people aren't. So the ticks find you by smell and heat, sniffing and sniffing. The tick then starts, it puts its proboscis in your skin. Here's your blood vessels. It is then testing you. You read this in Bruner. That's the first time I read it. It's testing you. It's checking the pH, your blood pH. It's not testing, but it pulls out, and that goes into the tick's gut. Yes, they have a gut. And at that pH is read by the different bacteria there, even Borrelia, and they change their pH to the pH that will help them get into you. Their heat changes. This tick could be at -20. Ticks live at -20. I've seen them down at my creek at -20. This tick's body is at -20. The things in the gut are probably going to be just a teeny bit warmer, but your blood is going to be like 97, 98. So it reads that and it says, okay, now I'm ready to get inserted into this person, and I can turn off their immunity. I can stick in the anticoagulants that I need so it doesn't clot. Here it's injecting and pulling back and pulling back. It can't keep all that blood, so it spits it back in. And here it is ready to have its 5,000 to 40,000 babies, depending on the kind of tick it is. That's a midwife's nightmare. It's all of our nightmares. Ticks turn off your glutathione. New research that I found fascinating. They turn it off so that your glutathione. Now, when my dog is very healthy, gets bit by a tick, this doesn't happen because the tick turns up dead, belly up. Deer hunters, many people do not get bit by a tick. So something is happening. Is your inflammation and immunity so high that when the tick bites you, you are wide open for viruses and bacteria? It's just a question. This is a cell of Borrelia. I thought you would like to see the metabolism of the Borrelia. They have DNA. They have all kinds of detox stuff. They are pretty active inside. But I want to put your mind right here to this little thing called porin. About 5 years ago, I saw a video of the spirochete going in and out and in and out and in and out of a cell, and it was just so fast. And we were told that they could make their own porin. Well, here it is in the cell wall, in the periplasm, right there is where the porin stuff is. And they can make holes in cells and our cells inside of us, and it's not good. Let's get healthy. The way back. This is one of my maps to the way back. These are the 8 powers that get you better. Take a look at them. They're all lifestyle. This is why transformative functional medicine is so beautiful, because it is all lifestyle. And lifestyle is hard because it means change. But you know, you can change. I have changed. I have changed tremendously. In breath, in our office, we use heart rate variability because it is the underlying thing of everything we do. Because when we get our breath and our heart rate and our emotions in line, that is creating an autonomic nervous system that will function in a parasympathetic and a calm mode. Very, very important. We do not heal in a sympathetic state. We check sleep genes here. And sleep genes, yes, there are actually sleep genes. The PER gene, the PER2 gene didn't get a lot of press until about a year ago when an article came out about researchers stating that this is both a heart and a day light gene. You need light in your eyes in the morning. If this gene is low functioning for you, you will end up with SAD disease, seasonal affective disorder. You'll end up with proteins being folded. It leads to cognitive decline. It can lead to heart attacks. And how they found that out, they gave a number of mice heart attacks and they put them under intense light. That's 10,000 international unit, 10,000 IUs or lumens of lights. And they started reversing the heart attack. And they actually said this is really necessary in cardiac units to have intensive light because you can heal it with that. I would like to say the mice are fine, but I did not get any notification of that. MTR, NB, it says NB, this is a mistake. I occasionally make mistakes and I rarely admit them, but you have me on record now. The MTNRB1 is a melatonin gene. And what we have found that if people are taking melatonin and this gene is low functioning, they could end up with a problem with diabetes. So my thought would tell me what would happen if we did research throughout the United States to find how many people are on melatonin that have this gene that is low functioning. If we got them off that, their diabetes would be under control. I imagine there is a good percentage of people. In many countries, melatonin is available by prescription only. Resilience, we talk about the Treg cells, these calm inflammation. So when I do a gut test and I see short chain fatty acids low, then I start looking at what we can do to bring those up because our Tregs will put the brake on that. I hope you're not here eating this food because our cells are our pencils and our food is the pen. What we determine with our fork can create this or this. So we can erase disease, but we have to go from here to here with many people. And we have to stop this. This is not, that's not food. So I'm working to motivate you to give you a second chance with your Lyme. Some of you, this may be your third, fourth, fifth, sixth. One of my passions is to stop you from not healing. And to do that, we need to really look into the gut. Motivation in my book, The DNA of Hope, it implants in the soul the fire to recover. I want you to recover. I want you to get back to your life because that's where we need you to be. This was one of my clients back in 1950. This is actually me. I had a lot of symptoms. I started changing my diet. I checked my DNA. I checked my cellular metabolism, and now doing a whole lot better. So when we function with better food and a better lifestyle, and we're more in a parasympathetic state, we start healing. This is a gut that I will spend just a minute on, and we are almost done. So take a deep breath. This person is showing poor diversity. That means if you saw that other picture, there's very little bacteria in her gut. This person has a history of IBS, and in that history of IBS, what we use according to the newest research to change IBS, yes, we work with the gut, but we work with the gut-brain axis. We work with heart rate variability and we work with neurofeedback, which is the brain autonomic system, and it changes it. This person, look at all this that it tells us. This person had intestinal permeability. They have problems with metabolic health. It's way up here. Neurologically, though, okay. They have probably maybe a history, or they're heading towards inflammatory bowel disease. And this person had SIBO. So those are the things we started working. That was on the first page of the report. This is a 29-page report. Whew. I won't go through that with you tonight, though. So for many people, the way back to health are these lifestyle triggers. If they're not sleeping, we get them sleeping. I'd say 99.9% of my clients do not breathe. And I tell them that. I said, you know, you've been in my room now an hour, and I noticed that you're not breathing. So we go through a little bit of heart rate variability and teach them how to deep breathe. We need to move, move, move. Move when you're sitting. Move when you're standing. We need to give support. It is a process of developing an extreme support team. We need to motivate people, make choices. Emotions, the LPS, or any toxins, any ammonia from the bacteria can increase your anxiety. There's the heart rate variability and neurofeedback. This is changing what we do here. It's just amazing how you can change a gut and change a brain and heal a person quicker with those three things. And here's some sleep genes that I was talking about. Here's the PER gene. And over here is the MTR gene, the melatonin one. Here's the cell wall. Here's the nucleus. These are your day genes. These are your night genes. These day genes need to be turned off at night, and these night genes need to be turned off during the day. Here, this person is not turning off not turning on the day genes, so they can't flip and turn off the night genes. So this is where the intense light comes in to help this, make it work better. And that's where we use the 10,000 lumens. And I did tell you the 3 mice story. So I hope you are feeling my passion tonight to help people get their hope back, and hope reaches all the way down to your DNA. My 2 books are The DNA of Hope and Operation Hope. Operation Hope is how you reverse cognitive decline and Alzheimer's, and we have done that here. I've worked with over 2,700 clients, 300 of them with the gut, and my purpose is to heal by lifestyle. There is my book. It is available on Amazon. And one thought for you, I want to hit this thought on sleep. It's the environment when all healing is best done. When we sleep, our body becomes a healer. Our grandparents had it right. Every hour before midnight greatly helps. It reduces the healing properties of sleep. So every hour after midnight that you don't fall asleep, you are cheating yourself. Tonight, we have covered Lyme and gut health and how we can restore health. And I hope I have covered that. I want to finish with this, that I believe in hope. Hope disrupts and finishes the race. Hope is committed and maintains a feverish pace. So if in the pit you lay, your brow bloodied from the fight of the day, hope will carry your load. And when you've done all you can do, and at the moment you want to give up on hope, hope will never give up on you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ann. That was very good. We have a couple of questions coming in, and I would remind anybody that has questions, go ahead and use the Q&A feature in Zoom. Or if you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section of the live video, and I will be monitoring those. So the first couple of questions that we have, Ann, it was a question about what you said about the vertical nail ridges. Did you say that means that you have low HCl?
It can mean low protein, and generally people have low protein absorption. because the nail should be made smooth. And what happens is the map of your nail is not. So it's some nutrient you're missing. We often find it's either protein, and then behind protein is hydrochloric acid. But we like to test and make sure, but your nails tell a 3-month story. That is a 3-month story of you.
Okay, very good. Next question. You talked about villi length. Now, how do you measure a person's villi length?
Oh, good question. When I showed you the villi with that yellow line there, we measure it through something called pancreatic elastase 1. And there's a couple of gut companies that do that. Pancreatic elastase 1 tells us if the tip of the villi is there, because this is where pancreatic elastase 1 exists, right on the tip. If you're down and your villi are a little bit lower, you don't have the tips. So that's lactose, that's your pancreatic enzymes. Lactose isn't a pancreatic enzyme, but your pancreatic enzymes are missing, and they go to the gallbladder and signal the gallbladder. So when you chew, your villi start moving back and forth. And when they move, they are sending signals then to the gallbladder and the pancreas to wake up, get moving, food's coming. Communication when you chew. So we measure it through pancreatic elastase 1 to see the length of the villi. If you're down to 100, they're pretty gone. 500 is what we want.
Okay, next question. And if somebody wanted to have an appointment with you, do you do virtual visits?
I do like to see the person, but since I can do education through Zoom, we can work that out. That is our number on the bottom of the screen to call for appointments.
Now, you mentioned something about there are things you can do. Obviously, it's important to have a healthy gallbladder. Some people, a lot of Lyme people, end up with no gallbladder. So what kind of things do you do for a person to help them if they have no gallbladder?
Okay, there's a number of products you can use. Phosphatidylcholine is always a good one for the gallbladder. You want to initially watch your fat. We use a product called Digestion GB for people after they've had after they've had their gallbladder taken out, because it gives you some bile and some other things. Another thing you can use is a product called Ox Bile that helps. But that's only one piece of the problem. You don't just want to work with the gallbladder. You want to work with the whole gut, because if the gallbladder is off, how far are you into SIBO? How far are you into other bacteria that are not good? Those are probably the main products we use for the gallbladder, but getting the diet straightened out and getting it healthier, getting more fiber in there is critical. If you do use fiber, though, some people only eat 5% of their diet fiber. What you want to do is increase it slowly, not fast, or it will cause tremendous gut problems. Choline is another product. It is a liquid. That's why phosphatidylcholine works, but choline is part of the chemical makeup of bile.
Okay, very good. I have another question about probiotics. This person is asking what to do if the probiotics they're trying don't make any difference. Apparently they've tried a bunch of different probiotics and not gotten any help from them.
Okay. Again, it depends on your personalized history, because some people need spore biotics. Some people need a lactobacillus. Some people, I'd stay away from acidophilus. Generally, people get too overgrown with acidophilus. Initially, I like to start with plain, like a lactobacillus reuteri, L-E-U-R-T-I. It seems to help emotions and a number of other things. It's a powder. So then we go to other ones, but it depends on what we test for. It's hard just to throw in a bunch of probiotics. You might end up with SIBO. In fact, I take some people off. I take a lot of people off probiotics because they're heading right towards SIBO. And then they're drinking kombucha and eating yogurt and sauerkraut, and they're adding to a highly fermented gut, which is already fermenting too much. So be careful. I would say your safest ones to start on are a very good Bifido, Bifido, or a L. reuteri. Those would be the two safest to start.
Okay, I have a question about glutathione. What is the best way to restore, replace, supplement glutathione?
Great question. So glutathione is made from within us. I like to use a product with glycine in it, and a number of other things, but I like us to make it within us. So broccoli and Brussels sprouts are very good to help you make glutathione, but they have to be cooked 3.5 minutes, steamed 3.5 minutes. If you can't make it within, then we start adding other things. And there are a number of different ways to take glutathione. Your liposomal ones are really the best.
Okay, I have another question. This person has a young teen with Lyme disease. Has been treating with an LLMD, not sleeping well, diagnosed with gastroparesis. Basic advice for that. Obviously, you can't give medical advice, but what would be some general advice for this person?
Sure. Gastroparesis means the stomach is not working, the stomach and the small intestine. And yes, you know that, but you need to find out the reason why. Is it high stress that is causing the person to be in a sympathetic mode? And you need to realize when you're sympathetic, you're not calm. Your immunity does not work when you are sympathetic. So we need to switch it to help the person learn how to manage that stress. And we will see cycles of gastroparesis in Lyme and other conditions when a person maintains a high stress life. You really need to get down to the bottom of the stress. Heart rate variability and neural feedback work for that. Then we look at the cellular stress, and then we look at the DNA stress. So it's a multi-combo type program, but gastroparesis is difficult to deal with unless you've dealt with it. And we have dealt with it here before. Stress is your primary one. You can get heart rate variability on your cell phone, HeartMath. It's just a little piece of a program. It's not near what we do here or other places because you want to have somebody certified in heart rate variability. But that literally changes your biochemical makeup, your cellular makeup, and neural feedback changes your brainwave makeup. A question that I would ask for that young person, were there any concussions involved? Because whenever a head is hit, you end up putting the gut offline. Think of it as a straight line. You get a concussion, the gut now doesn't function. It's very, very simple math. I hope that helps a little.
I'm sure it does. Thank you. I have a very long question here from somebody in our group. I think I'm going to take this question offline and share it with you offline. I think it's a little bit too complex. But I think I'm out of questions other than that. Eric, would you like to wrap things up if anybody has another question? We still have a minute or two. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a couple of questions. I apologize. I didn't scroll down far enough. Are there any recommended exercises like rebounding on a mini trampoline or inversion on an inversion table that help? That anything in particular that you recommend?
Sure. I'd start with walking, and I would pace your walk, go slow, and then do some intensity up the hills for a few seconds, but measure your walk. Because when people work with me, I like them to have a Fitbit or an Apple so that they are measuring the data points. Second point, I probably wouldn't do inversion, but I would strongly suggest some stretching. Stretching is critical to the body. Our chiropractor here, Dr. J, is always saying stretch first, stretch always. Gentle stretches, Tai Chi, any of those types of things, but gentle stretches are critically important, and spend like 15, 20 minutes doing that. Then that's when you're ready to do some either bicycle or a little bit of cardiac, but you've got to watch. It depends on where you are with Lyme and what type of challenges you're having. What we want to do is wake up the mitochondria so that they are getting the nutrition that they need and the muscles can be utilized. And the person does not get sarcopenia or weak muscles. So use the muscles. There is the best thing to do if you can is walk.
Very good. I have a question about steaming. Is steaming the best way to cook vegetables, or can they also be sauteed?
Yes.
Also,
go ahead.
yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Steaming is great, particularly because the researchers who studied broccoli, they studied Brussels sprouts, and they're the ones that tell us that you got to steam it. You must steam it for 3.5 minutes. That's when your glutathione is the highest. And then they forgot to do the marketing. And when they put the research out, they said, but very few people eat Brussels sprouts. So they literally changed it to broccoli, but it is the same family type thing. Steaming is good. I would say any way you can get your vegetables in other than a microwave is great. Fewer would to have them not cooked. We like vegetables cooked. Broccoli is not good when it is not cooked. And the reason is you don't get the value of it. It has to be released from those stems and those plant cells in order for you to get the nutrition and the value.
There was a follow-up question to that about roasting vegetables. Is roasting vegetables of any help?
I think it is excellent. Just because it gives us a different focus on how your vegetables taste. So roasted vegetables, any way you cook them other than the microwave devil is excellent. Just eat your vegetables.
And I have a question about microwave. Why is microwave oven cooking so bad?
Sure. Type into YouTube and I think you'll find it. A microwave takes the mitochondria of either the plant or the meat, and it heats it to and they move the electrons. The electrons move 2 billion times a second. Now, that is pretty fast. And they are so weak by the time the food is done that I don't want to eat those electrons. And when I talk about food, I'll talk to my clients about carbohydrates, and clients will come in and say, what's a carbohydrate? So in my book, DNA of Hope, I turn the whole thing upside down and I start with the electrons. We eat for healthy, vibrant, colorful foods that have high electrons. The microwave kills your electrons by moving them 2 billion times a second. That's crazy. Why would you want to eat food that tastes different, even though it's handy? There is a love of cooking that we have here. We have a culinary artist who is an incredible person who is helping us understand the value of beautifully fresh cooked food and how you mix things and how you start from the menu on Monday and use the food all the way different ways through the week. It's amazing. So that's why I hate the microwaves, because it kills food, makes it taste different, and it's not going to heal me. I would rather spend the time cooking it well in a different way.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. What steps do you find most effective to slowly get people off of high processed foods?
Oh, wonderful. Stories in my book, when my dad helped my mother get off processed food so that they could have some children, he went quick. So he just said, I'll do the shopping and let's get it done. I wouldn't do that. You want to go slowly. You want to introduce what I call heal with a meal. Heal with one part of your plate and change it. If it's going to be the meat, change it to a cooked meat of some kind that is farm raised, or a fish that is not farm raised. Or if it's going to be a vegetable, change it from a breaded vegetable to a generally a cooked vegetable with, maybe you make a cheese sauce or whatever, but go slow. Start with one part of your plate. So study your plate and see what's on it, and then change one food at a time. And really, when you heal with a meal, by the time you get to a month, if you take a picture of your food in the beginning and take a picture of it at the end, you're going to amaze yourself. You're going to start feeling better, because processed food has toxins, has gluten in it, has Roundup in it, is genetically modified. It goes on and on and on. My parents actually lost their first 9 children, thank you to high processed food back in the 48, 49s. And after they started eating better, they had their first child live, which was my brother Perry. And he is 72 today, and it's wonderful. So I am one of 3 of 12, thanks to the change that my dad made with processed food. Hope you feel the passion there, because real food is where it's at.
Eric, I'm going to leave it up to you. We have a couple more questions. Should we wrap it up, or should we entertain a couple of more questions before we wrap up?
Go ahead and answer. I see the couple questions there. Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. We have a question about vitamin D. How much vitamin D supplement would you suggest per day?
Okay. That is a measurable question. We suggest 2,000, but there are some people that are so low, we need to go to 5,000. Now, years ago, there was a person on the internet who wanted people to get on 100,000, and they said the more you take, the better. Well, now we know that there's multiple DNA genes for vitamin D. And if you take 50,000, even 50,000 just once a week, you're going to turn some of those genes off. So take it daily. If you're not taking vitamin D, the best thing is to start by 2,000. Do not go to a 5,000 unless you're seeing a practitioner who measures your vitamin D, because if you have lots of inflammation, you may flip it to the inflamed vitamin D. Vitamin D is a little bit complex, but we all need it. You can get vitamin D from your food, from fish, and that's probably one of the best sources.
Okay, I hate to save this question for last because I think it's possibly a complex question, but here it goes. Can you address the gut autoimmune connection?
Oh, wonderful. Yes. So when you have a gut autoimmune connection, what you have is you have initially a healthy gut, and then you could get under stress, or you could be eating the wrong type of food, and you end up with, maybe you end up with low hydrochloric acid. So when you get a problem in the stomach, it transfers it to the small intestine, because everything within you is a container. And so now you've got some low hydrochloric acid, and you're not breaking your protein down to amino acids. So you're pushing the protein into the body. The body doesn't know what protein is. It says, I am not safe. That is either stranger or it's danger. And your white blood cells in your gut are going to react to that. And they're going to come out and say, we're going to taste it and touch it and feel it. And I think you're more of a stranger. So we're going to be tolerant, but we're going to put this little chemical on you and get rid of you. You eat that food again, you say, okay, I think it's a little bit more than that. I think this is now more danger. It's going to fight. Once you start getting the inflammation up, inflammation links with immunity. And when they start linking, this is where you get into the problem. And you can start getting intestinal permeability, which is really the short answer to that person's question. If you have intestinal permeability, like for instance, that brush border on top of the villi has holes in it, meaning the mucin has holes in it and pathogens can slip in. They're not supposed to get there. So intestinal permeability is broken, and that leads to the first step in autoimmunity. You can then have a toxin, and usually you add like another trigger like stress, and you are the perfect storm for things like asthma, allergies, any of the many, many autoimmune connections. It starts with intestinal permeability and goes on from there. Get yourself tested for intestinal permeability and reverse it by following with a functional medicine practitioner who knows how to do that. Great question.
With that, Eric, I think we can wrap it up.
Okay, got it. Bill, thank you. Ann, thank you. I think you did a great job. You always do. Just want to remind everybody that the second Tuesday of every month is when we're going to be doing the Lyme Impact series, and August 11th will be our next one. We're trying to line up some national speakers, so I think we're pay attention to that. I think we're going to have some good speakers coming up. If you are seeing a support group in your local area, stay in touch with them. Most of them are going to be canceled for the next couple of months. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. Appreciate everybody taking your time. Visit us on palyme.org, and any donations are certainly appreciated. So Ann, thank you again. Bill, thank you. And everybody have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night now.